What do books like 50 Shades of Grey and Wuthering Heights have in common? Well, almost nothing until about September 2025. On September 3rd, 2025, the new trailer for the Wuthering Heights movie released on the internet, causing a cascade effect of YouTube essays, TikTok videos, Reddit trains, and comment wars. The Wuthering Heights promo has actually been a year in the making, and it started back in July 2024 when Emerald Fennell posted a cryptic teaser. In September 2024, casting dropped. Margot Robbie as Catherine Earnshaw and Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff. By October, Warner Bros. Actually secured the distribution rights for this film in a somewhat dramatic bidding war. Netflix had reportedly offered $150 million, but Fennell wanted a theatrical release, and so Warner Bros. Swooped in with an $80 million offer. Fast forward to early 2025, and filming began in the Yorkshire Moors. And paparazzi shots of Margot Robbie in a bridal gown on set started cropping up on the internet and fueled speculation of what kind of adaptation was this actually going to be. Then as summer rolled on, billboard posters with phrases like "Drive Me Mad" started popping up in New York and LA and London, and it became abundantly clear that this was not going to be your grandma's BBC drama piece. Finally, on September 3rd, 2025, Warner Bros. Dropped the official teaser trailer and poster. So why am I making this video? Because if you have been watching this situation on the internet, you probably already know what I'm going to say. The costuming is bad, the casting is terrible, the genre doesn't make sense, blah, 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 blah. But if that's what I wanted to talk about, I could have made this video 4 months ago. And here's the thing, I like being a fan. You guys know this. I like enjoying things. I like being a fan of things. I'm extremely lenient when it comes to adaptations with castings and costumings and aesthetics and directing. I usually don't care. However, because I'm an author, there is a part of my brain that refuses to shut off when I'm watching films. Watching as a critical consumer of media, for me personally, is not usually about like cross-referencing sources and debating the accuracy of a film or trying to find the director's personal manifesto about why they made this film in the first place. Instead, for me, being a critic is usually about two things. Number one, what is this story trying to accomplish? And number two, did it succeed in accomplishing this goal? But with adaptations, these two questions get tricky. What happens if the film has a different goal than the source material? What if maybe they have the same goal but end up in two different conclusions? Can that still be considered an adaptation, or is the source material simply inspiration for a completely different story? And what happens if the adaptation has no goal? What if the adaptation's entire existence is simply pickpocketed from the source material and we don't really know if it succeeds or fails at anything because it doesn't even seem to be trying? What if the film is just vibes and a famous title and not a serious piece of media? How do we know the difference? Can we know the difference? And does any of this actually matter? Or is this just another movie and it's quote unquote not that deep? I want to talk about it. Now, I have seen a lot of people saying that to make a video like this doesn't even make sense because the movie isn't even out yet. And that is 100% true. So what then? Am I a hypocrite? What am I doing here? Well, remember that first question that I asked? What is this story trying to accomplish? The answer to that question can be found in the premise. And the premise can be found in the marketing. It is a trailer's job to introduce you to the concept of a film. It is the elevator pitch to get you to try and go see the movie. You can and actually are expected to critique the premise of a film. That's why marketing is a thing. It is simply a trial run to see if the basic elements of the story, what the story is all about, is a successful concept to the audience. So that is what we are going to do today. Number one, the casting. The biggest issue of this entire film production so far has been the casting. And I want to set the scene for you because I found out about this film from the casting. Now, I don't know what's going on because for some reason when I was watching videos about this and the casting had come out, I got really confused because people were saying that the Jacob Elordi casting could potentially be controversial because it's speculated that maybe Heathcliff is a maybe person of color. So what did I do? I read the book. And yes, I will admit I had not read the book until that point. Any reason is a good reason to read classics, and that is all I'm going to say. But I will tell you now that I have absolutely no idea why anybody was being so cryptic about this, because like, it is 100% canon that Heathcliff is a person of color. He is not white. But not only is he not a white character, but it's also like kind of the entire thing that the book is centered around. So I'll be very clear. Heathcliff's race and ethnicity are not specified in Wuthering Heights, but they are 100% emphasized. But not only is his race important to his character, but it also is important to the entire novel. As in, almost nothing in this entire book would have happened the way that it did, or to the extent of which it did, if Heathcliff was not a person of color. You cannot tell the same story with a different set of characters. It has to be Heathcliff, and it has to be Catherine. Changing his race inherently changes the effects that the theme has on the story, and we've seen this before because many adaptations have been made of Wuthering Heights, and the vast minority of them actually are faithful to the casting. We have literally seen this film before, you guys. Unfortunately, I think Emerald Fennell knows this because it doesn't really seem like she's aiming to keep very much of the original source material the same in this film at all, including the casting of Catherine Earnshaw. Because the other casting issue is that Margot Robbie is playing Catherine Earnshaw, and Margot Robbie is old. Just kidding, she's not that old, you guys. People are being dramatic. She's not that old, but she is much older than 16-year-old Catherine Earnshaw. Now, I will say, I don't think that in the film, Catherine is going to be kept the same age as she is in the books. I think they are going to be aging her up. But that leads me to my first question. What is accomplished by the inaccurate casting of Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi? My main theory is that I genuinely think that she can't make this Victorian bodice rippers sexy schmexy wexy movie if she has minors, because that opens a completely other host of problems that I don't think she wants to touch with a 10-foot pole. But that leads me to my next glaring issue with this film. Number 2, the genre shift. When you watch this trailer, you immediately know what genre this film is, but you don't immediately know what adaptation this film is. That's because the source material and the adaptation are two completely different genres. And I think that's what was confusing to me about this adaptation, is that Wuthering Heights is known for being a conglomeration of genres. And all of those genres make sense to expand on in an adaptation of the book. We've seen countless adaptations make Wuthering Heights more romantic than it actually is, but it doesn't feel as off because Wuthering Heights does have romance in it. They've taken that small subgenre and explored it and made it into an entire adaptation. But for all the romance that's in Wuthering Heights, it is actually an extremely prude book. So when we watch an adaptation like this, something about it feels so very off. It feels uncanny, like the wrong book was adapted. It would be one thing if the adaptation was increasingly paranormal and it focused more heavily on ghosts and mental insanity than the book ever does. Or if the tragedy subgenre was pushed to the edge and the demises of these characters was more tragic and gruesome than it actually is in the book. But to take something that isn't there, this sensuality, and to create an entire adaptation around it just feels fake. It feels like the wrong book for an adaptation like this because it doesn't try to make anything more out of Wuthering Heights. Instead, it just succeeds at stripping Wuthering Heights from what made it so iconic in the midst of other romance genres. Remember the question, what is this trying to achieve? Well, a lot of people have come to the conclusion that perhaps all this film is trying to achieve is controversy. It's just an attempt at clear shock material and sensuality, and all it's trying to do is be controversial, and that's okay because you can let people make whatever art they want, blah, 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 blah. But my problem with this take is that the source material is already deeply controversial. And in today's culture and social sphere that we live in, it would actually be more radical to make an adaptation that was faithful to Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights has not lost its relevance, but adaptations like this seem almost determined to strip that away. Those are the glaring issues, but I want to chat real quick about people's theories. Theory number 1. Some people have speculated that perhaps this movie is about a girl who reads Wuthering Heights and fantasizes about herself in the novel. They've pointed out that the film title is put in quotation marks and that the costuming seems to be completely inconsistent. When I heard this, I genuinely could not help but roll my eyes because honestly, if that's the case, then Emerald Fennell has really missed out on the chance to properly market this film. It honestly reminds me of the movie Argyle I went to see last year. There was a lot of like pre-release hype for that movie. People were wondering if like Taylor Swift had written the book, if this was some movie book duo where the author's name is a pseudonym and it's really just the name of a character in the film, and all this crazy stuff was going on. And genuinely, you guys, it was the worst movie I saw all last year. It turned out to be a crime comedy instead of the like peppy, twisty spy thriller that it marketed itself as. It got a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the worst part, the worst thing that can happen to a movie is that everyone forgot about it. It wasn't even controversial enough for people to really remember. It would have made more sense if the movie had stopped trying to twist its audience before they even sat down in the theater. Now, I don't think that any of this marketing is a crime per se. I'm just not personally a huge fan of it because I think in the long run, it just makes for a more forgettable movie. Theory number 2. In alignment with that previous theory, people have speculated that perhaps the film is a meta-contemporary commentary on Wuthering Heights itself. This theory comes from the fact that the trailer uses very modern and somewhat anachronistic soundtrack, and having Charlie XCX on the soundtrack could be a nod to a more pseudo-modern adaptation. And if that's the case, Emerald Fennell might be deliberately blurring the lines between past and present to say something about how we romanticize toxic relationships, or how readers across generations keep reinterpreting the novel. It could be a bit of a fourth wall break, like a nod to the audience. But to me, that almost makes less sense than just the shallow knee-jerk reaction of, this is just an unfaithful film adaptation. So what do we do with all this? Well, I've already given my points, but I want to make a couple things really clear. Number 1, you don't have to go see the movie. For me, watching the trailer was enough to know that I am probably not going to like this film, and that's okay because that's what trailers are for. Take advantage of the information that people have given you. I do not subscribe to the idea that just because someone makes something, it deserves me to spend my time, money, and attention, and that we have to watch everything and comment on everything and just know everything about everything in order to like be a media critic. That's just not the case. Some things just exist and you don't have to be a fan of it. You don't have to go see it. And that doesn't make you any less of a fan of Wuthering Heights. It doesn't make you any less of a media critic, and it doesn't make you a hashtag hater of this film. Sometimes the trailer is enough to know that you're just not gonna like it, and that's okay. My other point is that if you do go see the film, you don't have to like it. And I don't mean that in a,
oh, some things are just not for you, and if you don't like it, you shouldn't comment on it because you just gotta be a fan, and when people make art, you just gotta appreciate it, so you don't have to like it because it's not for you.
Genuinely, I don't know how we got to this point in media criticism and in literary analysis, but when someone publishes, releases, or makes anything, the audience is not only allowed to, but we are actually entitled to critique it. I would love to make a video in the future about this idea that has surfaced on the internet of like,
just be a fan.
And the thought process that just because someone makes something, you have to appreciate it because it's an inherently good piece of artwork, and
don't be a hater, just be appreciative that someone's making art.
That's just simply not true. We don't have to like everything. But why do I mention all that for this film specifically? Because honestly, that could just go into an entire video on its own. But I found it really fascinating that for this press release, I found that as I was collecting my thoughts about this new trailer and the poster and the premise of the film, I was watching other people's TikTok videos and I was watching their YouTube essays and I was going into Reddit and seeing what people were thinking about it. And I found this really strange phenomenon that it seemed like in almost every YouTube video I was watching, and I'm not saying this about any specific creators anywhere because it really doesn't matter, but I was seeing people being extremely non-committal to their thoughts about the trailer. That's no hate to any specific creator because no one is required to give their opinion. You can, but you don't have to. But lately it feels like the internet just wants to talk about things without actually drawing any conclusions about anything. And that's not media criticism. Media criticism actually criticizes media. It tries to explain whether something succeeds or whether something doesn't succeed. Criticism is not always negative, it's just about trying to figure something out, but lately it feels like the internet doesn't want to figure anything out. It just wants to watch stuff and then talk about it. But then what was really bizarre is that when I went to the comments of these videos, almost everyone in the comments was actually saying their opinions about what they thought of the trailer. It didn't matter how non-committal the YouTube person was, all the comments themselves were just dishing it all out. They were just explaining what they didn't like and why they didn't like it. All I'm saying is that more and more the internet is starting to feel like this tomato meter versus like the popcorn meter, and that's what I'm just trying to do with a video like this. Because to me, it doesn't matter how many YouTubers tell me that they don't have an opinion on this trailer, it's very clear that the general public does, and I want to figure out why. All I'm saying is that if you don't like the trailer, you should try and figure out why. You are selling yourself short and selling your own mind short if all you do is think,
well, I don't want to be a hater, but I can't be a fan because I just don't really like it, so I guess I just won't think anything about it at all.
Media criticism is about understanding, it is about discussing, and it is about developing your thoughts. At the end of the day, trailers are marketing. And marketing is simply a story about a story. And if that story doesn't grab you, you don't owe it your time, your money, your attention, or anything else. What you do owe to yourself is to think about why the story didn't grab you. And that is the heart of criticism. Not hating, not hyping, but just asking yourself the simple question of, what was this story trying to accomplish, and did it succeed? So if you didn't like this trailer and you want to leave me a 5-paragraph essay in the comments down below, I will read it and I will enjoy it because congratulations, you have a brain! Thank you for using it. Anyways, like the video if you learned something, whether it's about genres or casting or media or whatever in this crazy world we live in, and subscribe for more videos like this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
These comments are so funny. Emily Bronte, rest in peace, girl. We don't take this movie seriously. This does not scream. Whatever our souls are made of, yours and mine are the same. I wish the internet didn't exist just to see the essays on the book from the students that only watched this movie. I didn't know Wuthering Heights was the 4th installment in the 50 Shades of Grey franchise. Maybe you should just go with vaguely inspired by Wuthering Heights. We can now affirm that this movie only has the title Wuthering Heights due to marketing strategies. I have to travel 1,000 mirror worlds just to find a good Wuthering Heights movie. They put quotations around Wuthering Heights because allegedly this is supposed to be Wuthering Heights. They Bridgertoned Wuthering Heights. No one would ever guess from watching this which book it's based on.